In tonight's special coverage, we're diving into the tragic news coming out of Iran. Just on Sunday, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and several high-ranking officials lost their lives in a helicopter crash in Tabriz. The crash occurred amidst difficult weather conditions during the president's return from a joint ceremony with Azerbaijan. Now, as the nation prepares for the funeral today, Tuesday, questions loom about what led to this devastating event. These questions and more will be asked tonight our experts and analysts to discuss the implications and what this means for Iran's future. More details after the break. Hello and welcome to tonight's special coverage. And before we bring in our guest, let's dive right in the latest updates. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, a figure many saw as a potential successor to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was tragically killed in a helicopter crash near the Azerbaijan border. The crash, shrouded in poor weather conditions, took the lives of not only President Raisi, but also Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian and several others on board. The report by Osama Ayadi.
After an hours-long search and rescue operation in poor weather conditions, Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi was found dead alongside the country's Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian after a helicopter carrying them and other officials crashed in a mountainous and forested area in the country. Raisi was returning from Iran's border with Azerbaijan, where he and the Azerbaijani president inaugurated a cooperative dam project that laid a sign of warming relations between the two countries.
The
servant of Imam Reza and the servant of people, Dr. Sayyid Ibrahim Raisi, the president of the Islamic Republic of Iran, became a martyr in the path of serving the people.
State TV initially informed that the helicopter fell near Jofa, a city on the border with Azerbaijan, but later it put it farther east near the village of Uzi in the Dismar protected area, a wildlife corridor across the border with Azerbaijan.
Despite the dispatch of dozens of rescue teams, the quick response to find the crashed helicopter took hours due to the foggy weather and the difficult path to get there. Finally, People's Aid Groups and Hilal Ahmar discovered the trace of the crashed helicopter.
After search teams located the wreckage in East Azerbaijan province by a Turkish-made drone, Iranian news outlets broadcast later footage showing the helicopter at the crash site, while rescue teams were able to recover the bodies of President Raisi and his companions. The crash comes at a time of growing dissent with Iran over an array of political, social and economic crises. Iran faces international pressure over Tehran's disputed nuclear program and its deepening military ties with the Russian Federation.
All right, let's bring in our guest. Joining me now here in studio live is Dr. Abdel Toumi, MENA political expert. Dr. Abdel Toumi, thank you for agreeing to be with us.
Good evening and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And waiting for Mrs. Yvonne Ridley, doctor and British journalist, author and Middle East expert, to join us. Let me welcome first Dr. Hamoud Salhi from USA, professor and associate dean of international education at California State University, Los Angeles. Dr. Hamoud Salhi, thank you for agreeing to be with us.
Hi, Karim, and my great hello to our dear friend, Dr. Toumi in the studio.
Dr. Hamoud, let me start the first question with you. What were your initial thoughts on the tragic helicopter crash involving President Raisi?
You know, there were a lot of thoughts going on there. One of them is the future of Iran, specifically with this level of, high visibility, a president. But at the same time, you have Iran has institutions that prove to be solid and continues with other people. The second thought is also about, this idea of conspiracy could be a plot. And there were some reports initially suggesting that this is an attempted coup, some link it to certain countries. So there were a lot of things. And then finally, it's really it's a crash, the weather, the conditions, all of that. So in many ways, it was a sad day and a sad event. And we wish the Iranian people and the entire region of the Muslim and the Arab world good things to happen. And yeah.
And Dr. Hamoud Salhi, I mean, you just mentioned adverse weather conditions. Some questions have resurfaced a lot. Why did Raisi and his companions actually prefer a helicopter over a plane?
It's a very, very question. Some of that could be really for several reasons. Could boil down to security reasons. Could be to believe in that there were no issues. I really don't have an answer, but certainly now in retrospect, that was an ill-advised and a better question, why travel anyway? So it's a serious question, and there must be some reasons why they did this.
Thank you, Dr. Hamoud Salhi. And just to raise a different question, could there be any ties between the assassination cases of Iranian leaders and the recent presidential helicopter crash? I mean, could there be any link regarding this, Dr. Abdenoor Toumi?
First of all, it is a tragic event that took place in Iran, and particular in this time that the region is going through following the carnage that is taking place on Palestinian people in Gaza. Now, as far as this tragic event goes, and how one could link the crash of the helicopter that President Raisi and his foreign affairs minister and two advisors who were with him. It is, in fact, I mean, we leave the analyst to look and to read carefully under the lines, based their analysis on what has happened in the last couple months and also years, and following the assassination of Soleimani in Iraq by the Americans, and also some high ranking personalities in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. But it's still, I mean, it's still fresh, and also the analysis are, I mean, needs more information for to have a fair result, and also analysis on this, again, tragic event that took place yesterday in Iran, on the north of Iran, on the Iranian-Azerbaijan borders.
Thank you indeed, Dr. Abdenoor Toumi. And let me just get back to you, Dr. Hamoud Salhi. Earlier, I did ask you about why maybe there is this preference to take a helicopter instead of a plane. And of course, many parties have been accusing the United States sanctions, I mean, of impacting the non-renewal maybe of the Iranian Air Force. Can we explore the connection here, just hypothetically speaking?
Well, there is good reason to take that point, that helicopters were safer. Just consider, for example, that we have had, or Iran has gone through sanctions since 1979, that is 45 years. During this time, there were 235 plane crashes and claimed 3,335 lives, according to certain reports. So it's a serious problem. Comes with that also the issue of maintenance, the issue of so even the tickets, the cost of the tickets, because it becomes a source of it could be a source of revenue. So the sanctions have had a big impact on the aviation industry because the Iranians could not buy parts and have had to put some of their plans on stop, freeze, and not using them because they could not be operated. So there is good reason for that, and I think this is one of the problems when Westerners of the United States, particularly, take actions against and using sanctions to punish countries. In the end, it's the people that are affected, and this is a really clear example of that. I mean, we're talking about for the 253 crashes in a span of 45 years. That's, I mean, you could do the math, that at least 2 or 3 crashes a year, and that's 3,300, over 3,300 people lives. So there is that connection there, and perhaps, Karim, that was a good option to go with a helicopter than a plane.
I see. Dr. Yvonne Ridley, British journalist, author, and Middle East expert, has just joined us. Thank you, Mrs. Yvonne Ridley, for agreeing to be with us. So I want to circle back a little to the connections between Azerbaijan and Iran. Why did the two presidents meet at this crucial juncture, according to you, especially considering media report on Azerbaijan's relations with the Zionist entity? It seems that your mic is off, Dr. Yvonne Ridley. I don't know if you can hear me.
They
Perfect.
came together for the opening of a dam, which was on the border of the two countries, and that is why they were together in this very mountainous northwest region of Iran. Of course, you can just see by the images you're showing now the horrendous weather conditions that were present on Sunday evening. But yes, my understanding is that Mr. Raisi was there with his foreign minister and the governor of Iran's East Azerbaijan province, and with a few other officials as well, for the opening of and the inauguration of this dam. And it was quite a big deal, which is why Azerbaijan's president, Ilham Aliyev, was also there, although he wasn't obviously on board the same helicopter. And I know a lot of people are very suspicious, as anyone would be when a leader, a significant leader, is killed in a helicopter crash.
And while the exact cause of the crash is still under investigation, Dr. Yvonne Ridley, it's still crucial to examine whether proper precautions were taken and if there were any lapses and whether these lapses were intentional. What is your take on this?
Well, the helicopter was about 20 years old. We've already heard about the crippling sanctions that have been imposed on Iran since the 1970s. And I would imagine because of those sanctions that getting spare parts and maintenance on any sort of aircraft or helicopter will be very, very difficult. But I would also imagine that the Iranian authorities will go through the helicopter with a fine-tooth comb to find out exactly what happened, if it was human error or a mechanical malfunction, and if it was a mechanical error, then how did it happen? They will, without doubt, be looking at sabotage, and already various conspiracy theorists have come out with their version of events. And there's a famous political activist called Jackson Hinkle who posted a poll asking his supporters whether bad weather or Israel caused the crash. And of course, the majority of his followers voted for Israel. And he also posted a graphic of the helicopter with the text, Mossad, it's never an accident. And of course, what we are hearing about Israel's behavior these days, it is a rogue state. It has no respect for international law, and it did target an Iranian diplomatic mission last month, which was the first time in hundreds of years that a country has broken all protocols and attacked another embassy. So you can see why there are conspiracy theories coming out already. And of course, there is a great deal of suspicion across the whole region. Was this an accident or wasn't it? And I'm sure that the Iranians will be the first to want to get to the bottom of this, having lost such two senior figures in government.
Thank you indeed, Dr. Yvonne Ridley. And here, let me get back to you, Dr. Abdenoor Toumi. So do you think this is a viable question? Can we really raise this likelihood that maybe security lapses were not taken or were intentional, let's say? So normally security measures would have been taken meticulously, but we see here there were lapses which maybe caused the helicopter to crash.
As you just mentioned, it is a serious matter because here we are speaking about a helicopter that, a presidential helicopter, and which needs very, very meticulous security measures by all means. I mean, technically, logistically, and also even in terms of protocol here, because the visit of Iranian president, and he was in process to meet with his Azerbaijan counterpart. So this is not an easy task. But there are other elements in this crash that, I mean, one could say it happens because of some weather reasons, and it is, I mean, the region is known for its harsh weather conditions. But in the end of the day, I mean, now we are in a developed world in terms of technology, and these kind of accidents, in fact, it happens, but it needs meticulous attentions to carry on. So, and also is the timing, and because as I said earlier, I mean, the region is going through this dynamic of change and shift policies in the entire region, and also the role of Iran and the way of Iran in the region. And this is why, the entire world was shocked by this tragic event that took place yesterday in northwest of Iran. So the long story short, to this question, I think it's better to let the investigation committee finishes their job, and then, when the result comes out, then we will start to actually speculate and make, I would say, a fair analysis on this, again, tragic event.
Clear indeed. Thank you, Dr. Abdel Toumi. And just to put the audiences on the spot here, Ibrahim Raisi is the 8th president of Iran. He was elected in 2021 to succeed President Hassan Rouhani and was known for raising slogans against corruption and poverty. The late Iranian president was a staunch critic of the West and was even seen as a potential successor to the Iranian supreme leader. More with Sofian Kinturi.
Away in a helicopter crash in East Azerbaijan province. His death at 63 shook the nation, as he was seen the likely successor to supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Raisi began studying at Qom Religious Seminary at 15 under renowned scholars. By his early 20s, he served as prosecutor in various cities. In 1989, he became Tehran's prosecutor after Ayatollah Khomeini's death, marking a pivotal moment in his career. Under Ayatollah Khamenei, Raisi's ascent continued. He was named chairman of Astan Quds Razavi, Mashhad's largest religious endowment, on March 7, 2016, further consolidating his influence within Iran's institutions. Raisi's initial entry into presidential politics in 2017 saw him facing incumbent Hassan Rouhani, but suffering defeat, and deterred him strategically prepared for his next bid. In June 2021, he secured victory with 62% of the vote in an election marred with a low turnout of 48.8%, attributed to disqualifications of reformists and moderate candidates.
Today, Mr. Raisi is the president of all Iranians. We have to respect the electoral procedures. Almost 20 million people voted for him. So in most cases, that would mean that he represents the country.
As a key figure in the religious establishment, Raisi cultivated strong ties with both Khomeini and Khamenei, who entrusted him with significant roles. However, his presidency coincided with widespread public discontent, fueled by economic challenges, exacerbated by international sanctions.
My serious suggestion to the United States is for them to swiftly fulfill their agreements. They must lift all sanctions and with it show that they are truthful.
During an intense period, all eyes turned on Raisi. On April 15th, Iran launched a meticulously planned offensive, employing over 120 ballistic missiles, 170 drones, and 30 cruise missiles. However, most were intercepted before reaching occupied Palestinian territories. Ibrahim Raisi's path from scholar to president showcased his ascent in Iran's political and religious realms. His death leaves a complex legacy, reflecting both his rise to power and the challenges he faced in office.
And following President Raisi's death, Supreme Leader Khamenei appointed Mohammad Mokhber as acting president. Mokhber's close ties to Khamenei and alleged involvement in Iran's ballistic missile program raise eyebrows amid Western sanctions. Here's Salman Asibla.
Mohammad Mokhber, president of the Islamic Republic of Iran for the next 50 days, led the first cabinet meeting following the death of President Ibrahim Raisi and Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian in a helicopter crash on Sunday in a mountainous area in the west of the country.
This is a serious incident for all of us. It is sad and upsetting, but in the interests of our country and our people, we won't have any disruption. The country will continue moving forward under this leadership. Everyone should continue on with their roles despite this incident. In no way will this tragic incident interfere with the government and running of our country.
Mukhbir, who is 69 years old, held prominent positions in the Iranian Republic, the most recent of which was first Vice President of Iran since August 8, 2021, after he assumed the presidency of the Committee for Implementing the Imam's Orders. After graduating from Shahid Bahishti University of Medical Sciences in the 1980s, Mohammed Mukhbir was appointed a member of the medical forces with the rank of officer during the Iran-Iraq War. The new Iranian president, who holds a doctorate in administration and law, assumed responsibilities in a number of economic institutions in the communications and financial sectors. Mukhbir is known to be close to the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who appointed him as a member of the Expediency Discernment Council, the highest advisory body in the country.
Back to you, Dr. Yvonne Ridley. How might Mukhbir's alleged involvement in Iran's ballistic missile program impact diplomatic relations, according to you, especially in the context of Western sanctions here?
I think that the priority for the Iranian government has been to implement a smooth transition so that they can continue with programs like the ballistic missile program and continue with rolling out the government's policies. What I was surprised at was the White House spokesman John Kirby's views about the death of Raisi. He said that he had blood on his hands for supporting extremist groups across the Middle East. And obviously, I think he was referring to Hezbollah. But whatever the Americans think or thought of Raisi, it was, I felt, quite inappropriate to say that he had blood on his hands and that, they were critical about his leadership because of the sensitivities around the nature of his demise. This was wholly inappropriate language to use. There is a nation in mourning for its president, and as you said earlier on, he was very much seen as a protege to the supreme leader and a potential successor as well within the Shia country's theocracy. So I don't think that the language used by the White House today will be at all appreciated in Tehran, and especially because of the question marks that are now being placed over this accident, which I guess would be inevitable anyway. It was just astonishing that the White House would be so insensitive.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Yvonne Ridley. Let me go back to you, Dr. Hamoud Salhi. In light of the report, what implications does the appointment of an acting president with strong ties to the supreme leader have for Iran's domestic politics and balance of power, according to you?
Well, when you look at the Iranian political system, it centers on the powers of the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. It's the supreme ruler that sets the guidelines and pursue and expect the government to pursue those initiatives. When you look at also the parliament, it's the same thing. You have a representative, but then you have the guardian of councils that composed of 12 judges that is whose function is to see to it that the decisions that are made are in accordance with the constitution and the religion. So the relationship between the ruler and the executive, between the executive and the supreme ruler, in this case, the interim president and Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is expected. And it is in line what the previous personalities have. It should generate support among the conservative, among Iranians who feel that the conservatives should continue. So it's very, very interesting, and that kind of relationship is expected, and that's what maintained sort of the system. And the system has survived because it established institutions and it's so complex on many levels to a point where it is difficult to differentiate or to find out where is the source of decision making. The executive, the presidency, for example, the president must get the approval of Ayatollah al-Khomeini after being elected. That kind of power is very, very important to take into account, and it makes the system very complex. But the system has been successful. It is sustainable, and it is no longer defined by the individual. It's defined by its institutions.
Thank you indeed. Another question one might ask is, how might Mohammad Mokhber's interim presidency impact Iran's domestic and foreign policies during this transitional period, in particular, Dr. Abdel Toumi?
It's in fact a very important question here, but as we all know now, the appointed President Mohammed, Vice President, was Vice President, and now he is an acting President Mohammed Mokhber, will have a very short term that he will be watching the transition period that, according to the Iranian constitution and Article 131, which will be 50 days, but according to the latest news reports, the elections will be held by the end of June, I believe, on the 28th. So in this point, I don't believe it will have any direct impact on domestic as on foreign policy during his transition period. And this is due also, that was mentioned earlier by Dr. Saleh, about the solidity and the currents of the Iranian institutions.
Thank you indeed. And speaking of the transitional period, let's get an overview of the Iranian constitution's provisions outlining this transition for presidency.
After the martyrdom of Emir Abdullahian, our country's foreign minister, and with the approval of the Government Council, Bagheri, Deputy Iranian Foreign Minister for Political Affairs, was chosen to take over the affairs of the ministry and the International Committee.
Ali Bahadouri Jahroumi, Iranian government spokesman, announced Ali Bagheri as the new Minister of Foreign Affairs, succeeding Hossein Amir Abdullahian. Jahroumi also revealed the formation of 6 specialized committees to manage the country's affairs during the coming period. The Iranian Foreign Ministry has affirmed that the passing of Ibrahim Raisi will not impede Iran's capacity to play a constructive role both regionally and globally. In a statement, the ministry emphasized that this incident will not hinder Tehran's commitment to safeguarding the interests of the Iranian people, as outlined in the statement. Dr. Yvonne Ridley, does Iran's appointment of an interim committee to prepare for elections here and the elevation of the vice president to interim president signal a closure to the ongoing investigations into the helicopter crash and maybe a commitment to hold timely elections as outlined in the Constitution?
The last thing that the Iranian government wants to give is an impression of panic. And they are being very calm and collected despite this tragedy. And Ayatollah Khomeini did say that there will be no disruption to the operations of the country. And by introducing this 50-day period of mandated elections, they will ensure that there is a smooth transition. Mohammad Mokber takes over at a really crucial time in Iran's history, and I certainly would not envy him his position today because it is very much a hot seat. But the Iranian government, despite being hit by a political catastrophe as well as a human tragedy, is giving off an air of calmness. And that is very important for it at the moment until these elections have taken place. And I think that this has been reflected as well by the reaction so far of the general public. The Iranians, it doesn't take much for them to get out into the streets and protest and demonstrate. But I think that they are also in this period of national mourning. And the shock of this accident, I think, will
Thank you indeed.
People sort of in a state of flux for the next week at least.
Clear. And Dr. Hamoud Salhi, back to you. With Bagheri succeeding Abdullahian, a prominent figure in Iran's nuclear file here, how do you see the implications for Tehran's approach to the nuclear issue? Will Iran maintain its current stance or chart maybe a new path under Bagheri's temporary leadership?
Bagheri has been involved with the nuclear negotiations before, as some reports have suggested. He also has a wealth of experience and he's familiar with the regional issues. I think you will not see any changes. The nuclear issue is a sovereign issue in Iran, and as a result, what dictate the change of policy is the system, in particular the supreme ruler and other institutions that are that work closely with the foreign ministry. And we have seen on a number of occasions where a change of leadership did not translate into a change of approaches. We've seen, for example, some diverging views between those who lead in the negotiation and perhaps the supreme ruler, but those are only tactical issues. So in the end, I don't expect anything to change and nothing to change. To the contrary, this would give more reasons for the system to continue in its path. Remember, the most important issue that Iran did is to defeat what international relations talk or experts refer to is the escalation of dominance. The Israelis are known to retaliate with force to create a fear or deterrence. But what happened on April 1st, and the response that came from the Iranian on the 14th indicated that Israel has failed to match the power of Iran, and Iran became a very major force that Israel takes into account. So that and having a nuclear equipment, whatever that means, is, after what happened on April 1st, something that the Iranians wants to make sure to have, because they believe that this will deter the Israelis, and it's something that they use to protect their sovereign state.
Thank you indeed. And here, Dr. Abdenour Toumi, do you join your view to that of Dr. Hamoud Salhi regarding Tehran's appointment of Bagheri as head of Iranian diplomacy? Do you see that this may maybe signal Iran's intent to maintain its current foreign policy approach?
I believe I do agree fully on this statement. However, the Iranian foreign policy that was set, or it was actually a doctrine, was set by President Raisi and his foreign affairs minister, Abdullahian, was based on the rapprochement with neighboring countries, and also to keep the trajectory of the Iranian pragmatism toward the neighbors, and also the international superpower, like for instance with China, Russia, and to some extent even with the US in their indirect talks. And also the Iran foreign policy approach was also set on the balanced objectives and strategic goals via its non-state alliance in the region, like for instance with Hezbollah in Lebanon and Ansar Islam in Yemen, and the resistance, Islamic resistance and Hashd al-Shabi in Iraq, and also with its supporters in Syria. All these elements together has set a clear trajectory for Iranian diplomacy on one hand, and also the Iranian position on this new posture that was set by the October 7 Al-Aqsa flood operation that has shaken the entire region and has become a geopolitical shift in the region. And this is why today the Iranians are not concerned but attentive toward all these developments, and wants to continue on their foreign policy doctrine to be an important actor, and don't be shaken by this tragic event. And this is also to send a strong message locally, regionally, and internationally.
Thank you indeed. Back to you, Dr. Yvonne Ridley. I mean, in light of what Dr. Hamoud Salhi and Dr. Abdenour Toumi just said, could the ongoing debate maybe within Iran regarding the future of the Islamic Republic and the role of the guardianship of the jurist deepen further here? And what potential implications might this have for Iran's political and social landscape? If Dr. Abdenour Toumi was talking about the foreign affairs policy might actually become stable or remain to be stable, but if we find something internally different, maybe this could change the whole thing.
Well, I think there will be a period of stability. Iran's declared 5 days of mourning in the memory of the president and the foreign minister. I don't think that Iran is, well, historically, it's never reacted in a knee-jerk way. Everything it does is very thoughtful and measured. So I can't see anything deviating Iran from this course that it's on at the moment. However, if the crash site investigators do find something that is untoward, or finds that there has been some sort of sabotage, I think that we'll see quite a different reaction from Iran. But at the moment, the country is in a period of mourning. The Ayatollah, or the supreme leader, is determined that nothing will shake government policy or allow Iran to go on to a different course in its foreign policy. What has been interesting are the allies or other countries that have come around and given words of comfort and sympathy to Iran, which includes Russia and Turkey. These are unprecedented times, and this crash, for a country to lose both its leader and its foreign minister, two key positions, would have given other countries around the world an opportunity to perhaps reach out in a diplomatic way to Iran. And I feel as though some countries have missed an opportunity by remaining silent over this. But of course, at the moment, all eyes will be on the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. He is the man who holds the ultimate power with a final say on foreign policy and Iran's nuclear program. So, he is very much in charge and will remain so. So, he really will be the focus of attention, I would think, over this 5-day period of mourning.
And Dr. Hamoud Salhi, what about the next phase, the next president? Would there be any possibility that the next president might face internal obstacles in dealing with or aligning with the conservative movement in Iran? How might this dynamic actually shape the country's political landscape moving forward, that is?
Well, there are domestic challenges. Sanctions are a challenge economically and socially. But I think throughout the years, we have come to see Iran political system and structure adapt to situation and evolves around the concept of pragmatism that Dr. Toomey and Dr. Ivan mentioned earlier. I'll give you an example. When Khatami took over back in 1997, society was moving toward liberalism. There was a gap between society is evolving as adopting liberal views by Iranian standards or not Western standard, and the laws and the power of the conservatives. Well, Khatami was elected by 70% of the Iranian population, but then he takes over. And there, the first challenge was at the parliament. And at the time, both the liberals had control of the parliament and the presidency. But the Iranian system has what we call the guardian of council. And this is a council that is composed, as I mentioned earlier, of 12 judges. They are 6 of them conservative and 6 of them liberal, and there is a process for how they are nominated. But in the end, one of the failure of the Khatimi liberal movement or liberal constitutionalism that some were pushing was the power of the council to nullify or to undermine the decision that were made at the parliamentary level. So the conservatives were powerful at the time. But then, if you stop there, you could give power to the conservative. But also, the executive has a way of going around this by allowing the president to have the power to nominate vice presidents. And he had, I think, a number of them. I think maybe at one point there were 20 vice presidents Khatimi had, all in charge of certain areas. It was through those presidents that was able to also pursue a liberal agenda in the media and so on and so forth. When we move forward, we could see, look at Nouri or others, when conservatives are in power, that doesn't translate automatically to a full take control of power. The supreme ruler has full power. But the Ayatollah system, if you look at it, you have over 300 Ayatollahs, and they come from different divergence of view. You have liberals, you have moderate, you have all sorts of that. So an Ayatollah's prestige is also comes from the support or the endorsement or the respect of other fellow Ayatollahs. So he too has to take into account other views. So the point I'm trying to make is that there will be some challenges, and certainly the conservatives have the power, but that doesn't mean or that doesn't translate into sort of a system where it could collapse. For the obvious reason that the system has been able to adapt to new conditions, some of them at the expense of one group or another, but in the end, Iran's system has survived and its structures has survived because of this idea that Dr. Toomey and Ivan talked about earlier, this idea of pragmatism.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hamoud Salhi. And just to give the final word to Dr. Abdenour Toomey, as we have run out of time for tonight's special, I would like to raise this question considering the timing of President Raisi's death alongside regional developments, particularly regarding what is happening from genocide in Gaza, or maybe the crisis in the Red Sea, or even the crisis in Yemen and the Houthis. So what can you say just to conclude today's special?
And again, actually, I mean, the entire region was shocked by the crash of the presidential helicopter of President Raisi and his foreign affairs minister and his two aides. But, I mean, it is just a circumstantial event that took place in Iran, and Iranians leaders are indeed concerned about all developments around them in their neighborhoods and in the region. And I believe they are seriously and attentively looking for continuity and stability and to keep the Iranian regime, strategic objectives intact, and also not to add another layer of instability in the region.
Dr. Abdenour Toomey, you are MENA regional expert. Thank you so much for agreeing to be with us.
Thank you.
Dr. Hamoud Salhi, it's always a pleasure to be with you. You are an associate dean professor from LA, California. And thank you, Dr. Yvonne Ridley, for agreeing to be with us for tonight's special. You are a British journalist, also specialized in MENA affairs. And thank you, dear viewers, watching us from your home, for tuning in to our channel. Stay tuned for further updates on other developments. Take care.